podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
It's all over. We have reached the end. The URC for the 2025-2026 season is done and dusted, and Leinster have retained their title by comfortably defeating the Bulls once again in Croke Park in the biggest sense of deja vu any rugby competition has ever had. We'll be talking all about that and looking ahead to what comes next for this podcast in this week's URC Rewind. Let's start the show. I am joined, as always, by South African Mohammed, Scottish Ethan, and Irish Adam. Good evening, gents.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are recording this on the summer solstice, hence it's light at the moment here in the UK, and we've got incredibly hot and bothered UK contingents between I'm by that for the purpose of this podcast, I'm Welsh Hugh, between the Welshman, the Scottish, and the Irishman, and the South African is here in his hoodie. And it's probably like, what temperature even is it? I bet we wouldn't even wear a hoodie in that temperature.
It's quite, I didn't even check today, but early in the week we did get a 25 degrees Celsius day in the middle, just randomly in the middle of the week. But yeah, it's a weird winter going on here. It's just back and forth. But
it's 22.
It's cold at night though.
It's 22 degrees now on Merseyside. So, and I'm sweltered. So fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
So, lads, this is probably going to be a somewhat short podcast. You know, dare I say that people could check out last year's review of the URC final and just rinse and repeat, because it was the biggest sense of deja vu that we've ever had.
Replace Barrett with Owoni. And yeah, there you go. Fair enough.
He played well. He's doing a job. But we'll start with yourself, Adam. Leinster have done it. They've returned the title. For the second year in a row, they have put Champions Cup defeat behind them by winning the URC in what doesn't at all feel like a consolation prize. And it pretty early on, it was all sewn up.
Yeah, it was. What was it? It was that 27th minute try by Conan, and I sort of felt like, whoa, okay, this is almost. It wasn't it the exact same halftime score as well.
Yeah,
it's the exact same halftime. So it was 22-0. I was sort of like, is it one of those moments where I was just like, am I watching the same game? It was in Croke Park. It was just. It was one of those where I thought Leinster were really clinical, but I also thought there was really daft moments by the Bulls, like the yellow card in the first, what was it, 5 minutes, was it, for the deliberate knock-on? And then James Lowe did the exact same around the 60th minute as well, where he did a deliberate knock-on, and I was just like, what's going on? Like, guys, just keep your 2 hands to the ball. Everyone knows if you put 2 hands to the ball, you're going to be fine. But yeah, they were clinical. O'Brien's try in the first half was pretty remarkable. It was a great take and try. It's just really annoying in an Ireland standpoint how he got injured. Like how he's not going to be fit for this summer. But the same with
waiting for Leo
Doris,
Cullen to blame the Lions tour. It's because of the Lions tour. He didn't go on the Lions tour, Leo. It's because of the Lions tour.
Both of them didn't go on the Lions tour. Like that's the whole thing. Yeah. But the thing is, like, I think that it's the most Tommy O'Brien try ever, to be honest with you as well. If you'd have a Tommy O'Brien try from memory, it would be like that type of break. Then Ioane scored, and yeah, I think that he's sort of in my books now. I think it shows great personal growth to say that he had grown into that Leinster shirt quite well towards the end. I did think that he, at the very start, it does take time to get used to that Northern Hemisphere type of rugby, and I do think he did play better in the wing. However, I thought he was pretty remarkable against the Bulls. I thought that he couldn't really put a foot wrong. And then, yeah, Sam Prendergast played pretty well. I don't think there was much pressure on him. As I said, I think it was a case that Leinster showed up, and they showed up pretty well. But the Bulls were like really flat. It was almost like they were the Bulls that we saw at the very start of the season. It wasn't something that I was sort of mesmerized by. It just felt like it was a normal, like it felt like a final because there was a trophy there. It felt like a final because it was in Croke Park. The game didn't feel like a final. It just felt like a normal game in Dublin.
Mm.
And then it felt like a final when the trophy lift was. And that's nothing on Leinster. Leinster did the job. Leinster did the business. That's more on the Bulls, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Mohammed just it felt like a no-show at time for the Bulls, honestly.
It's a weird feeling. I'm not that like I'm upset with the Bulls, but I'm not that like upset with Leinster. I mean, like throughout the season, I was like, oh God, let a different team win and let it not just be Leinster rumbling to the final. And yet the Bulls had so much momentum going into the game, having started the season poorly, but then gotten so much sort of found their feet at the right time. And then they show up and they had a week off to prepare. So I don't think that helped. But like their key players didn't step up. Their best player for me was Trevino Jacobs, and he was also substituted. After him, who else played well? I mean, Imbros Papier, okay, but like the guys that you would think, even the Bulls bench wasn't didn't make as much impact as they did 2 weeks ago against Glasgow. Giving away yellow cards for those reasons of the identical at key moments from key players didn't help. They scrum Leinster, but to Leinster's credit, they nullified the Bulls scrum in terms of like giving away silly short arm penalties when they could, and maybe not making the scrummer like a focal point.
Well,
So the
it was
the
exactly.
Bulls the Bulls line out also was under serious pressure by Leinster. Well done, Max Deegan. They were just throwing Max Deegan into the air and disrupting all that stuff. So like it's a weird situation because I thought I'd be pissed that Leinster win another URC, but then I look holistically at the season and I think to myself like, you know what? They sort of earned it, and we've criticized Rico Ioane throughout the season legitimately. Um, and at times I've seen online some like silly comments and stuff like that. But like to his credit, like in his season at Leinster, they made the Champions Cup final. Yes, they lost it, and then
Yeah.
they won the URC. Whereas like with Barrett,
Yeah.
they only got to the semi and they lost to Northampton of all
Yeah.
people, and then they won the URC. So it's more of a case of like, well done, Leinster. But look, I know a lot of Bull supporters. I'm not in contact with all of them all the time, but the ones that I did speak to via text and in person are pissed. They're not having it
On what grounds?
because they're like they were never in the game. And I think it's interesting because I'm a Shark supporter, so I was like, okay, okay, come on, let's the South African team win. And then when I spoke to them, I was like, hard luck, guy. At least you made the final. Stormers made the semi-final. Lions made the knockout round. Sharks didn't make the playoff. And people I spoke to were like, no, we fucked. How do we do this 2 years in a row? Last year we lost by 25 points. This year we lost by more points, I think. Or we definitely conceded more points. They were like, look, when you four finals in a row, sorry, not four finals, four finals over 5 years, and not being in a sniff even in this game. It wasn't even like a close game. Like that's also, I think the Bull supporters and myself included would have been like, cool, okay, they got their loss by like
Well,
a
they
try
couldn't
or thing.
they couldn't have started the game any worse with the yellow card to Moody, and then that the first Leinster try kind of came from nowhere, and then the second Leinster try, which is quick thinking from Gibson Park, Hugo Keenan does nonsense, and then it's a good finish from Ioane. So it's kind of like it's the most nightmare possible start, and then from there Leinster just had the balls in a vice,
Yeah.
and they couldn't get out of it.
Yeah,
You
and then
can't.
sort of like in the
Yeah.
second half, people were chatting about this referee is quite controversial. There was some sort of like sketchy moments in there. I lean more towards that would have made the score a little more respectable, other than bring the Bulls back into the game. But I guess we never know. But even when the Sharks are playing, I tend to steer far away from that type of chat. But yeah, the Bulls, it's weird. The Bulls like had such a poor performance. Contrast that with Leinster, who legitimately saved their best for last.
Mhm.
So it's like
Yeah,
from a Bulls perspective, like last year, remember in the preview show with myself, Jean, and David. Shout out to David. And by the way, that show did fantastic numbers here on Global Gain Lines. Like and subscribe. Jean was saying like this is completely different. They just got different vibes, but then the same outcome showed up. So super interesting to see tomorrow night when we record the review show of this final and Springbok games, um, what John has to say. So please tune into that.
I just remember last year how last year as well everybody was saying like, oh, the Bulls are going to destroy Leinster's scrum, and then they didn't. And I think another referee might have given the Bulls a bit more, because there were definitely some where I was like, oh, come on, that's a penalty to the Bulls. And he was like, no, play on. But that's how refs are told to referee the scrum these days. So it's frustrating, but it's how most games are refereed these days, which is just irritating. And I think it's something that rugby generally needs to rethink. Ethan, from your point of view, what did you make of the game?
It's one of those games where it's kind of like Leinster played really well, but they can only at the same time play what's in front of them. That I still think that if the Bulls' two disallowed tries were still given, I think, in my honest opinion, I think they should have been given. I thought they were a bit harsh, but understandable why they weren't given. Um, the Lancers still would have won that. That I didn't watch most of the first half as I was coming back from the gym, but they seemed like a team that was only told the day before that they were playing a game tomorrow. That there were tons of knock-ons. There was tons of, I don't know if you just describe it as sloppiness. That I think the best thing that described it was at the end of the first half when they had that kind of, I don't know if you describe it as penalty momentum. That I think they won a scrum, then went for I tried to go for a line out or something, and then Pollard just completely kicked it out.
Yeah.
On 42nd minute, and it's kind of like, because did Pollard even try and kick any penalties? I don't think they
Not
did.
off the top of my head. No.
No.
When we did our prediction show, at the start of the season, one of my bold prediction was that I said that Pollard would flop at the Bulls. And it got to the point a few weeks ago where I was like, oh, he's playing all right. You know, he nailed his goals against Scarlets to beat us. And we missed 3 conversions of that game. If we'd got 2 of them, we'd have won. But Pollard kicked penalties to beat us. And it was like, well, what a game to use your World Cup moment, Andre, against the Scarlets, you know. And he's been poor. You know, you have to say, if he's not contributing goal kicking, what's he contributing? Because like you said, he's kicking balls dead. His playmaking isn't setting the world alight, and you never thought he would be. What much else is there to say? What is he offering really at the moment? You talk about the Bulls, the big game players. I will cut Vilila some slack for his deliberate knock on, because I do think it was a case of a calculated, I'm just going to do this because otherwise it's a try. And they did end up going to score a try a few days later, but it was a case of like definitely die or maybe die. Like, so he went for maybe die. So I kind of forgive that one a little bit. Kane Moody's had a very, very difficult game. Like, according to the official stats, Kane Moody's given away 8 turnovers or lost the ball 8 times in this game. The next highest player in the whole game was 3. And out of the 22 turnovers, the Bulls lost 8 of them are Kane Moody. And you throw into that the fact that he had a very tough semi-final as well. And Stedman Khans came on and played much better than him. I think that's a question probably for the Bulls to reflect on, of, is that a selection decision that they've got wrong? Then maybe there's the pressure of Moody's a Springbok, you got to play him in the position that the box want to play him in, which is 13. But it's a grand final, you know, and they picked a player who was struggling. People were saying, like, if Razzie was coaching the Bulls, he would have taken Moody off after 20 minutes. Like, it was really poor performance. So that's enough about that. And yeah, Leinster just got the job done early. And to me, it shows that the Champions Cup thing is psychological. Because they clearly have some kind of... The URC is a bit of a comfort blanket to them. Mm-hmm. And they are able to turn it on in the URC and get the job done and make it look fairly easy. So it does tell me that the Champions Cup failures are a bit of a... There's a mental block there of they can't do it in the Champions Cup, but they can do it in the URC. But they just looked miles better, because on the team sheets, you'd say team sheets, probably Leinster a bit stronger, a bit, but not massively. Certainly not to the scoreline that we saw. No. And the last thing on the Bulls was that their 22-meter conversion was much lower than average, and that's impacted by the fact that they had disallowed tries. If those tries had been allowed, then it would have been more normal. But then more normal is like 3.6, 3.8 or something. Is their normal 22 conversion, which is the best in the URC. In this game, they had 1.2, which is credit to Leinster and their defence. And it's ironic after all of the fallout from the like deal with the devil thing. No, in these last two like semi-final and final, no South Africans come out and said yes, Jack has been vindicated. No one has said that, so that's interesting. But it's credit to Leinster, but it's also a bit of an anomaly from the Bulls as well. And like I said, just a bit of a no-show, unfortunately, and it is disappointing. It's very disappointing, and it just leaves the. I don't know, guys. You can all chip in on this. Does it feel a bit of an underwhelming event?
In a way, because it was so similar to what happened last year, yes, but as I'd say, if you were to speak to any Leinster fan, and from an Irish perspective, when you look at that Leinster team, they had like no Andrew Porter, they had Jerry Caher, and that's pretty remarkable. The fact that he's off to Connacht next season and he did so well in that scrum, like packing down. You have the likes of Max Deegan, who had an incredible game as well. He's just all over the park. He's been doing things like that for years, but he's been almost in the sort of shadow of whoever's in front of him. Um, but yeah, and also you had the whole thing was there was James Lowe's last game. James Lowe's last game in Ireland, probably last game of his career in Ireland before he probably goes off to Japan. That's a pretty big deal as well. I feel like there was multiple storylines for a Leinster fan that they would be really proud of. And I think considering that they started the season with two losses from the get-go, two heavy losses in South Africa, and bearing in mind that their team wasn't weak, they had that sort of Lions hangover. To be back-to-back URC champions, I could see why, as a neutral, why it would be more of a non-event. But I'd say from a Leinster and Irish perspective, and this is the only time that I'm ever going to be like, guys, we must listen for a second. But it's much more of an event to those guys because I feel like that feeling's back at Leinster again, and I do feel like the RDS is going to be a mainstay and is going to be full next year. I do hope it is because I think the Aviva hangover is there and it's still there, and I feel like they should just push it to the RDS. This is the URC champions back at their home turf, and yeah, I think that's going to be the last time they use Kirk Park in a while as well, to be honest.
I
So,
will defend the crowd as well because some people taking shots of the crowd. It was
oh no,
39,000,
it was yeah.
which is a good crowd for a club rugby match.
Mm.
It is,
And
and there was concerts on as well. There was loads of concerts on this weekend.
yeah, you can say like, oh well, what about the England and France? I think England and France have their final in the same venue every single year, and like neutral fans buy tickets and plan to go to it from like a year out,
Yep.
which doesn't happen in the URC. There was more fans at the URC final than the Super Rugby final, and so that's all I got to say about that.
It's like it's in a time in Dublin where they could have played at the Aviva because Metallica were playing. Olivia Dean was on this weekend, and also there was Gaelic games on during the weekend in Croke Park, so they had to play it on that Friday. And a Friday night game in Dublin is probably tough enough if you're coming from the other counties in
Yeah, exactly.
Dublin. Do you know what I mean? Like to come from, it's like hard enough trying to get from the north to south sometimes in is like my grandparents are from Dublin, so I've got experience in like after concerts from the north going to the south. Sometimes it's hard enough trying to get from the north to the south side of Dublin. Like it is pretty remarkable, and they're getting what nearly 40,000 to a game like that. And bear in mind that it's a South African team as well, so you wouldn't really be gunning on away support for that.
Mm, exactly. So I people have tried to make it's just empty seat counting, and this is the thing. It's a whole another rant. I can be like, people want to measure how many empty seats you have rather than how many people are in there. I feel like people would be happier if all rugby matches were played in 2,000-seater stadiums, so every single game was sold out. So we'll go, oh, it's sold out. There's no empty seats. So, yeah, but there's nobody there. Like, so that's kind of my point of view. Question though, again coming back to you, Adam, from the Leinster point of view. After the Champions Cup final, everybody was calling for changes, like, oh, we need changes to coaching staff, we need to rethink selection, the organisation needs to be more aligned, we need a top to bottom review. Because they've won the URC, does that all go away now, rightly or wrongly?
I don't know. I think it's more, as you said, Hugh, it's more of like a psychological thing with the Champions Cup because we know how they can play. You have to say it's pretty mad how a team that's came eighth in the top 14 has beaten the URC champions. Do you know what I mean? Like it's one of those where it must be a psychological thing. There was a lot of talk in that camp about Nina Bar being unhappy, being targeted by the press. And then Leo came out saying that he was targeted by the press as well. And there was that sort of like weird, like, will they, won't they, pointing fingers. I do feel like it's a pretty statement win. I'm not sure what a Leinster fan would probably think of that whole coaching setup and how things. I'm pretty sure they'd be pretty much like they'd be happy enough with it because I do think from a Leinster perspective they can only just build and they don't have, as far as I'm aware, a shiny new signing next year for them to build up. Like they've got a pretty, not a skeleton squad, but they've got a squad where they can really build on, and they don't have a lot of their players that would they would rely on their B team. So, it looks pretty good on the likes of Leo and Nainabar. I don't think they're going to change anytime soon. I think the only changes that you would get is probably after the World Cup, and I think that's when most of the changes happen in World Rugby. So I think a natural change, if they had a shit season next season or not, it would be next season. I think they're pretty safe in terms of the Irish rugby sphere for now.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think that's pretty fair.
But I think the issue there isn't so much that Leinster, yes, it is Leinster not winning the Champions Cup and only doing well in the URC, but because there's less alignment between Leinster, who was the most dominant Irish team, and the Irish national team. So the constant thing I keep seeing is like, well, they have to learn a new system. Whereas when Lancaster was there, there was a more seamless move between majority of the Irish national team players moving from success with Leinster into success with Ireland. So that seems to be the issue. That even if Leinster was like completely dominating, what if Ireland start to wilt because they were just playing a different system at the national team level? So I think that's the mainstay of the issue because neither Ireland aren't first in the world and Leinster aren't winning the Champions Cup. So people are like, is this even working? But as it relates to attendance, 39,000, so it's pretty good. I watched it on TV. It was a Friday night, super sunny, obviously, in the Northern Hemisphere. And the atmosphere seemed nice. Uh, Last year it was 46,000 people. So it's a couple thousand less, but it still seemed like a fun time.
What do you think, Ethan? I'll come to you for this. This whole thing of waiting 2 weeks, because I've pushed back on the whole rugby in June is wrong thing that people have been saying because it was like check the scores. Everybody is playing in June. Everybody plays in June. So it's not just like oh bloody URC playing in June. It's an anathema. It's against nature. No, everybody plays rugby in June. So I pushed back on that. But what do you think of the 2 week gap? Because people said we need this 2 week gap for people to arrange the travel and things. It's not fair to give people 1 week to book a final and things. But did it feel like it's kind of like everybody kind of forgot about it for a week and then we're like, oh yeah, this is on again?
I feel it's one of those. I think in this situation with the 2 weeks, it's a bit harder purely because it was the Bulls, like a South African team going to Europe, or in another situation, it could have been vice versa. And I think that situation, sure, that might have helped in that situation. But if it's, for example, any of the European teams going to each other, I think it would have been more beneficial just purely because of how easy it would be to get flights organized and stuff on a more like local level, which isn't to, start up that whole conversation of like travel times and stuff. But I think in this situation, it's a bit more, it probably helped a bit because in the Bulls semi, or when the Bulls played at Murrayfield, there were quite a lot, but I think that's purely because of the South African diaspora within
And
Scotland.
if you're a Bulls fan living in London, for example, it's like possible. Like Policeman Ben from formerly of this pod went from London to Edinburgh to see the game. So it's not ideal, but it's possible. But like getting over to Dublin again is just an extra layer of complexity.
And then I think hype wise, I don't know. It's kind of weird just having an extra week.
It doesn't help that Leinster are very open about the fact that the URC is secondary to them, and that's the message that they put. So maybe if there's anything that Leinster deserve a bit of stick for, it's this. And obviously if they've won it, it's very difficult to say this when they've won it, of like you're not prioritizing the URC, well they've won it. But it's this kind of the messaging of this is a bit of a consolation prize for us. That's not going to help the hype of it, and people that doesn't help people getting excited. Like if this was, oh god, am I going to get cancelled for this? If this was like Munster, you feel like the hype would be more, perhaps, playing in Thomond Park. I don't know, Adam, do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think I I think we're going to get a lot of comments, but I do think it's sort of like oh yeah, we've won the league. It's like when they won the double. How many years ago since they won the double? Dawson won 2018. When they won the double, it was sort of like oh yeah, we've also won this as well, but they still brought out the Champions Cup and went, but here's the Champions Cup, guys. It's that I don't blame Leinster for not being openly, but being basically openly thinking more about the Champions Cup. It makes you more money. It gives you more like of that world view of wow, they are the best team in the world. I, but in a way, it as you said, Hugh, it sort of like it doesn't it sort of takes away that specialness of the league. If they were more like, oh, and I'm not saying like 39,000 people still very remarkable.
Yeah,
And
exactly. I'm still defending the crowd size as being
yeah,
good.
30, yeah, well, yeah, it's true. Like 39,000, like the fans still care about it. We're not saying the fans don't care about it. We're saying more of it's like they're so focused on one thing and it's clear. And because that one thing wasn't there, they played really well in the other thing. And that's what it was, isn't it?
I
Like,
think
and even if they did win the Champions Cup, they probably would have still won the URC. But that's the thing; they knew that they were probably going to win the URC, like in an roundabout way. Probably without the likes of Glasgow, they would have probably known, like, oh, home final, a South African team coming up, just like last year, lads. And that's probably what the conversation was.
despite the fact that Glasgow, by any measure, are a smaller club than Leinster, I kind of feel like if Glasgow had been in the final, the hype would have been more because it would have been more special to them, and like the Scottish rugby press and stuff, because it would have been more exciting, more unusual. And the fact that it was exactly the same final and exactly the same halftime score in exactly the same place that we had,
Exactly the same ref.
yeah,
Same
exactly the
ref.
same ref that we had last year, it just felt a bit.
Mm. If Glasgow had a home final, it would be obviously awesome. Are Leinster allowed to have finals in the RDS, or is it too small for
Oh no,
Champions
No,
Cup in
they've had them
URC?
before.
Yeah,
they're loud, but they're just building. They've
yeah.
been building
So
it. It felt like for the past 2 years.
yeah, so that might have sort of, even if they're allowed to do it in the RDS, if they had played the whole season in the RDS and just done an
It
Aviva
it,
game,
yeah,
that
it
would
would have
have
been yeah.
really given it a bit of a push. Or like Leinster fans had never been to Crow Park like in ages and then gone, but then they did
Yeah.
obviously go to Crow Park. Just this,
Hmm.
this is the only game they played at Crow Park this week. I mean, sorry, this season, right? Or
Oh
this
no,
week.
No, they
they
played
played
against
against
Munster.
Munster. They
Oh, they
played
played at
against Munster.
Munster.
But that's the thing. I think you've sort of hitting the nail on the head there of like if this was a normal season and if we had it in the normal way of them having the RDS, I feel like the Leinster hype would have been more for this final if they were playing in the RDS in terms of they're going to play in the Aviva this time. But as I said, there was concerts going on. There was a lot of it was a logistical nightmare essentially, much like when if Glasgow would have had it in Scotland. But
Mm.
that's as we said, Hugh said, that's probably a byproduct of playing in June. And this late on in June is that there is going to be outdoor concerts. It's warm outside and it's lovely.
And speaking of the Aviva, like 39,000 in the Aviva is mostly full.
Yeah.
Like that's like both
Yep.
sides full.
Yep. Both sides
So,
full.
that's all that's the context on that. I think I think to summarize that, I don't think it's Leinster. I think the one thing that you could criticize Leinster for is the fact that they're so open about how the URC is second to them. And I repeat the point that makes them unusual. Now, in 2026 in club rugby, most clubs prioritize the league these days.
Hmm.
Leinster is a bit of a hangover from a bygone era that for Leinster that they're putting out their first team against Harlequins or Stade Francais shags that get sent over to lose on purpose to get knocked out early. and then Leinster play their B team in URC games, which again they mostly win, to be fair to them. But my point is, it's Leinster are unusual that they still prioritise Europe over the league, and the fact that they do that dampens the kind of excitement for the league final. So that's the only thing you can kind of criticise Leinster for. Generally, I do think that the 2-week gap had a bit of an impact on the hype as well. To be fair, we haven't spoken about it from the Bulls side. The Bulls didn't help by A, playing badly in the game, and B, it's not the Bulls' fault again, but the Springboks were playing on the same weekend. And that's, of course, taking attention away because the Springboks had a team announcement and multiple squad announcements in the 2 weeks intervening. And from a South African point of view, it's not the game. It's literally not the only game in town. So that doesn't help as well. Again, that's not the Bulls' fault. But from a South African point of view, that's why maybe the hype was a little bit dampened as well. So having said all that, I don't know what the solution is. But I mean, what do we think about the idea of nominating the final a year out, final venue a year out, and just moving it around, and having it predetermined?
I wouldn't mind it. I think it would create like look at the Prem. Like I know that for the Prem, it's always going to be in Twickenham. However, look at the amount of different shirts that were in that Prem stadium. Loads of people traveled to it. Loads of fans pre-booked it.
I've been to the Prem final a couple of times. You see, like
it's
Wasps shirts. Like
it's like a festival of rugby.
Yeah.
It's like the same as the European Cup final as well, being so far in advance.
The top 14 semi-finals held in Marseille. There is no Marseille rugby team, and every club has fans there.
It would work so nicely having it being like 1 year Northern Hemisphere, 1 year South Africa, 1 year Northern Hemisphere, 1 year South Africa. Like it could work out so nicely in terms of if you were a fan and your dream was to go to a final in South Africa, it's in a year's time. You can save up in 2 years' time and go to that final in South Africa. Like I think it could work so nicely and it could create this like festival of URC that could happen from it.
Counter argument is, what if 2 South African teams get through in the finals in Edinburgh? Like now, probably that's not that. You could probably still shift a few tickets for that because there are South Africans everywhere. If it was something like Munster versus Glasgow in the final, for example, and it was being held in Durban, that's not going to work.
It's worth having the conversation, but we are unpacking all the permutations. So, I mean, look, any South African final. That's why it's so annoying that the Stormers sort of fell off and that kind of thing, because we know for certain that even the Lions can sell out the URC final at Joburg, despite the logistical nightmares and the issues around the Johannesburg CBD. All 4 South African franchises, if they were to make a final, would sell all out because of yes, there's a cost of living crisis and everybody is really suffering through that, but people tend to prioritize things. And then if it was a final, but there was a 2-week break, that would make it even more likely to fill out in South Africa, be it Durban, Johannesburg, Pretoria, or Cape Town, because then people could sort of budget a little differently with a 2-week period to go forward. But yeah, with many things, there's no perfect solution, but look, it was sort of an entertaining final. Going into it was really like, okay, we're all going to back the South African team. Most of us, anyway. There were a lot of Stormers supporters who I spoke to and saw the messages, including Paul on the Bit of an Animal WhatsApp group, who was like, I can't do this. I can't. He didn't say he was backing Leinster. He just said I can't back the Bulls.
Massive PRG fan that day.
Yeah, I think you saw the message that Paul posted. He was like, no, actually, he spoke to Braden Paulser saying I can't back the Bulls. He spoke to Braden Paulser in direct message on Instagram saying I can't back the Bulls. I play hockey with Bulls supporters and I chatted shit so much earlier this season when Stormers were winning and the Bulls were crap, and now they're gonna win the thing. But I felt weird watching the game. first 10 minutes, you're like, oh my God, Bulls are throwing it away. And then the game sort of ends. And like I'm so glad that Ethan mentioned the last minute in the first half where it looked like, oh, if the Bulls can just rumble up, get this penalty kick, get the next penalty kick for the corner, and get a try, hopefully make the conversion, then it makes the second half more interesting. It's half period. And then when Pollard kicked it dead, and we all make mistakes, a bunch of Springbok fly-offs over the weekend for the South African A and the box senior box kick the ball dead. But in kicking the ball dead in this like key moment
But
when
Andre Pollard's whole thing is he's supposed to be the clutch guy in knockout games. That's the whole point of him.
I don't know if he's sports betting and his friend has like a parlay on.
Allegedly.
Because it's like, what are the odds of Andre Pollard? Like when you like you're in like extra time in the first half, it's the 41st minute. You just have to kick it into the thing, and then he misses. But we're all human, so like I said, allegedly. But like that deflated you, and then weirdly, when the game ended and Leinster won, I actually felt really good for Leinster. And then all these players leaving. And another point is worth mentioning is that Leinster on paper, again, games not played on paper, are going to be weaker next season. But Bulls are also going to be weaker next season on paper because they're losing Rowan Nokia and Curtly Arnitzer, both going to Japan. Mm-hmm. So we'll see sort of how, I mean, they've got ready-made substitutes for Curtly Arnitzer, maybe not at that level yet, but good players. Whereas Rowan Nokia is not quite at that level. Yeah, there's only one Nokia. I'm also a big fan of it since he broke through. So there's that aspect as well. So and then just to remind Adams, it's I don't think it's pronounced James Lowe. I think it's James Lowe. I could be mistaken.
in the World Cup year that it is.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's enough of that. So we're going to now go on to talk about some test footy. But before we do that, I just want to remind people that if you have enjoyed that chat, you might have done, who knows? Please consider subscribing to the Global Game on YouTube. This is the most diverse rugby podcasting platform anywhere in the world. We've got weekly, sometimes more than weekly, South African shows, Irish shows, loads of those. Stay tuned. French shows, American shows, women's shows sometimes. But Scrum of the Earth is on here sometimes. And of course, there's this URC show. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with that over the summer in a moment. So if it's a bit of rugby from a bit of everyone, if that sounds like a bit of you, please consider subscribing. All right, guys. Test footy is back. Now, here's the plan. So we are going to do the URC spin-off show. So we sometimes do the Champions Cup spin-off. We sometimes do the Six Nations spin-off. We are going to do the Nations Cup spin-off, which actually, no, it's not the Nations. Is it the Nations Cup or is it the Nations Championship?
Nations League?
Nations Championship.
Oh, Nations Championship.
Nations Cup is the second division one.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Who comes up with these names? And also, who keeps photographing the trophies in the dark? Please stop doing that.
Yeah, is it a black trophy or is it a silver?
No, it's not. They just photographed it in the dark.
Oh, right. I thought
to look mysterious, I guess. Yeah. I don't
know. So we're going to do for the Nations Cup games. So there's only 3 rounds, so that's nice. It means we can all have a holiday. We're going to do those. We're also next week, we're going to do a URC Fraud Watch show, which are always very popular, especially amongst the presenters.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of test footy this weekend, we are briefly going to mention, Mohammed, the Springboks versus Barbarians game, because there was a lot of URC players on show, both for the Boks and for the Barbarians. I caught the highlights. I didn't get to watch it live. What did you make of the game? 80 points to 31. Not necessarily what people would call serious rugby.
Interesting game, considering that the Springbok A team who had played before scored 40 points. So the senior team then went on to double that. Look, these games, this is the second year in a row that we're playing the sort of Barbarians first. Sometimes we put a Barbarian game here and there on the season, but we're starting with it outside of sort of like a certain window. So we didn't have access to certain players. So it's like the best of whoever didn't make the URC final plus Japanese players, and then minus a few players who had maybe played a bit too much and obviously injuries and stuff. So started weird. I think the first points were down at like the 18th minute. And then there was like back and forth. There were some yellow cards that opened the game up for both teams. Like when the Barbarians got 2 yellow cards, the Springboks went and scored a bunch of points. And And then when Springbok got a couple of yellow cards, the Barbarians sort of came back and used that opportunity. The game was like very Barbarian-esque. I mean, there was a couple of players from South African perspective on the Barbarians team, most notably sort of Ollie Kibble, famously
He's Scottish.
Scottish. He is Scottish. He's so Scottish. I saw him in Newlands the other day,
Is Kebble a
which is
Scottish
weird
word?
because I saw him in Newlands 10 years ago. When
I
I
feel like
saw Ollie Kibble,
I feel
when
like
I saw Ollie
Kebble
Kibble
is
for the
Scottish
first,
slang for food or something.
oh yeah, is it?
I don't know, Ethan. I'm looking at you.
Either. Oh, he's
I
mute
can't
again.
hear him.
Millennium pause. He's mute again. Millennium
Hi.
pause. He didn't.
No,
Oh
I
no,
can't
he's
hear
having
again. You was
he's
back
having
for a second.
gremlins. The gremlins. Bryce, I blame Bryce. Bryce's gremlins got onto Ethan's
Oh, I can
computer.
hear you now. Go speak.
Oh, is that it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty sure Kibble, like KIBBL, is like dog food. I'm pretty sure Ollie,
There you go.
because I remember years ago, when you do the Wikipedia deep dive, and you just end up in those random things. Like, I'm pretty sure Ollie Kebble's the one who's like South African uncle got like murdered in like really weird circumstances. So I'm just kind of like, where's the Scottish link here? Is it like
Yeah.
Because I've never seen anything confirm residency
Are we a
or
true
like
crime podcast now?
oh.
Weirdly, the whole time on
Let's
the
keep
Bit of
it
an Animal
lighter than
podcast.
Murdered Granddads, you know. Let's
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, weirdly, the whole time on the Bit of an Animal podcast that we've done so many podcasts, no one's ever mentioned that part,
Yeah.
but everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, first time I ever saw Ollie Kibble in my entire life, I watched him play for the Stormers and Western Province and like junior rugby. Obviously, South African born with Scottish heritage. And then I was walking in. There was it was Western Province or Stormers versus Sharks. And I was walking in Newlands at this Newlands Main Road going to the game. Just gone to the mall there. And then Ollie Kibble was like signing autographs. He happened to not be with the team. He was going to play later that day, but he was just walking around going to the mall or something. This dude's huge, massive oak. So Ollie Kibble was known as the Rhino with his blonde sort of hair, mohawk type thing. Didn't do so well in Scotland. He played and he went up against Zach Porthen and he actually got the better of Zach Porthen to a degree. And myself and Bryce
They're both in the
previewed
Stormers
that.
now, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
both the Stormers now. So
Yeah.
it was like Stormers on Stormers violence. And Bryce, to his credit, he was like, I'm really interested to see Ollie Kibble at Lucid coming off the bench versus Zach Porthen at tight head coming off the bench. Zach Porthen, former Baby Bok captain as well. And there was back and forth, but I'd say Ollie Kibble actually got slightly the better of him. And that's something you want to see. You kind of want people to make mistakes and have adversity in the Barbarians game at the start of the season, because this is the first of 14 games for the Springboks this season, and this one doesn't count as a test cap, nor did the South African A game count as a test cap. So I really enjoyed it, especially
because that's interesting. Because the South Africa A game, South Africa official, South Africa A is the Springboks capture team. So I'm wondering, because the Springbok game against the Barbarians wasn't capped, are the guys who played against the Zimbabwe now captured, but the guys who got their debut against the Barbarians are not captured?
exactly. So they'll probably be capped pretty
So
soon.
we're gonna have another Bernard Jansen van Rensburg situation in a few years.
Exactly. People are going to be like, oh, and that's such a good player.
Oh,
And he
by the
played
way,
obviously
England lost. Haha.
against the French second team as well.
Got battered.
So I think the main talking point coming out of this game was the Springboks playing really well towards the end. The Springboks didn't like fade. As the last 20 minutes, the Springboks really kicked into another gear, and then the Barbarians wilted. And as the game went on, TJ Perenara lost his cool more and more and more. Got to a point where we were like, come on, TJ, we all like you, but like, like you've not done any Aaron Smith stuff like that. Google that.
And Warwick Gelant had a nice day out. Good for him.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
Johan van der
played.
Merwe, again, another Scottish man. He had a nice day out. Are you reading anything into the fact that the Barbarians managed to score 30 points against the Springboks, or are you just like, there, doesn't matter?
Yeah, it's just like it's the Barbarians game. You like give them an opportunity sometimes, and the crowd again. It's a big stadium. There's the whole thing we can talk about on Bit of an Animal tomorrow about the size of the stadium and the cost of the tickets. But it was still a good crowd. It just looked a little because of the size of the stadium and the direction majority of the cameras are looking. So you in a Barbarians game, you don't really want to shut out. You want to give the fans stuff to cheer about. You want like constant action.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to the Barbarians against Wales next week, so I'm going to do a vlog of that, so people keep an eye out for that. George North's last ever rugby match. Good for him. And from Wales' point of view, who knows? Like it could be sometimes. Well, I was about to say sometimes maybe good. It's been good once over the last 2 years, so who knows? So we'll see. I don't have much to say in terms of a preview because it's against the Barbarians. So I don't know how you preview that. Also, Wales women are playing Barbarians women. I'm kind of more interested for that, really. So I'm going to go and see that. I've applied for media access. I have not heard back yet. It is still open on the RFU portal. So here's a bit of a glimpse behind the curtain for people. England aren't playing in this game, but because it's being played in Twickenham or Allianz Stadium, you have to apply for media access via the RFU. So the Barbarians doesn't manage any of its media, and you don't apply via Wales. So I'm just kind of waiting for that. So it's kind of neither here nor there. It was the same for Springboks versus Argentina in the Rugby Championship. It was the same for that. You had to apply via England to go. But later this year, for Fiji versus England, even though it's in England, it's not, because it's not technically an England home game. The RFU, you don't apply for media access via the RFU for that. But it's unclear, because it's being played at Everton Stadium, it's unclear whether you apply via Everton or via Fiji.
It must be Everton because Everton's ticket, it's on Everton's like ticket web. I'm looking up
Right.
because I'm looking it up because I'm meaning to go, but I haven't bought tickets yet. And I'm like, oh God, it's actually sold way more tickets than I thought it has.
Has it?
Yeah, it seems like um I'm looking for like 5 tickets and it seems like it's like nosebleed seats.
All right,
Nosebleed
I
40
better have a
quid.
look then.
Nosebleed 40 quid job seats. So yeah, but
Oh, I
yeah,
really want to go to that.
I do as well, but I'm like, why is it all selling out so quickly? But I don't know if it's a case of
It's all those Fijians in Liverpool.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a Fiji kit to it, so it's
Yeah.
gonna be me
Yeah,
and the
me too.
boys.
I've asked for
Me
one for my
and,
birthday.
me and the boys. If you see me and Hugh meeting up in a Merseyside pub in our Fijian kits, giggling to each other, you'll know why.
Um, yeah, of course, because Liverpool's not in England, famously.
Yeah,
According,
Scouse not English.
yeah, exactly. So where were we? Oh yeah, so I'm going to go to the Barbarians game against Wales, one way or another. If I don't get media access, just buy a ticket because it's like 20 quid. Um, and yeah, and then moving forward, we're going to do the Nations Championship games, and we're going to only do the URC nations. So we're only going to do the nations. Like if England are playing New Zealand, we're not going to talk about that. I would on the French show, we'll talk about all the French games. That's about it.
Hmm. Ethan, what was your thoughts on the Barbadian game? Did you watch it, Ethan? All those
I,
Scottish players?
I did try and watch it. It was really hot yesterday, and it's when it felt like a Sunday yesterday, and I don't know why. And when you're just kind of like semi-awake, and you're just trying to like, let's watch this, let's try and focus, guys. And it became a bit hard at times to continue watching, but no, I thought it was a pretty good game. Is it Kewen or for Kewen Horn? Is that how its name's pronounced? Yeah.
Quan
Is it
Horn.
Quant? Because I don't know if it's in our lovely comment section or another one that they're saying it's pronounced QU and then space AN, and I'm like, that doesn't help. Is it Q and Quant? But no,
Yeah.
I thought he had a great game. And it's the sort of thing from a or from a URC perspective for the Lions. It's good for the Lions players to be able to get more because him and Edville van der Merwe, they had a great game. He had a great day out. That whole
Unfortunately, Ethan, we stole Edwin van Weber. So
oh, did you?
he's not a
Where
Lion
do
anymore. But
where
most
do
yours, we get slack for
yeah
stealing Alliance players, but most URC franchises steal Alliance players. I can name
yeah
5 that went to the Stormers and 5 that went to the Bulls. They
yeah
don't always play when they go to the Bulls, which is weird because it's just 50 meters, 50 meters, 50 kilometers away. But the Bulls are famous for like signing Lions players and then just sticking them in the second team. Like see DC Lesa Milani, who then had to go to the Stormers to get game time. But I digress. Sorry, Ethan.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, Horn's probably going to play for the Bulls in like 2 years, so
They tried to sign him. They tried to
Really?
sign him.
Yeah. His contract was up and they tried to sign him and he was like, "No, I'm gonna stick around the Lions." So yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the man here.
Didn't you watch Duan's performance? Any clips here?
Weirdly, he didn't really do much. He has a nice haircut.
Weirdly,
now.
that sounds like Duhan to me.
Yeah, he didn't really do much. Is it Nankivell or Nankivale?
Nankivell? Yeah.
Nankivell. Like he had a really good game.
How
He
big
was
is
really busy.
Vakatava?
Massive. Like he's like Johnny Bravo. He's just built.
Is the horizontal stripes just make it look even bigger?
Yeah. Yeah, like he was also pretty good. As mentioned, Cabell was great. Trying to remember who else played. McConnell didn't really do much. I think he gave away like an offside penalty, but that was pretty much it. But I mean, he's it's for him. It's probably the experience of being around players like Paranara and all that to learn. I think he's the one that in the Edinburgh squad that he got into a bit of a dust up. I think with Schumann, because he's just one of those. Let's just say he's got a lot of energy, and Schumann was like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's going to do my head in." Allegedly.
Which player are you referring to?
Liam McConnell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
he got one. The comms mentioned he got one Scottish cap.
Yeah. I mean,
I've got one Scottish cap. I don't.
I'm still waiting for my wash, Scott. It's in the mail.
Who else played? I can't even remember who else played.
No. Anyway, shall we finish on a pink note? I got a new Stade Francais jersey. This is the end of the podcast, everybody. Anybody who's not interested, stop watching now.
Very nice.
Yes, it's a Power Rangers. Well, it's not a Power Rangers one, but it looks like a Power Rangers one.
Oh, that's a classic as well.
Oh.
Yeah,
Very nice.
silver. It is a bit Little Britain. You know what I mean?
It's very tinfoil, like you're about to host a conspiracy podcast type of vibe.
Yes,
Like,
it's
wear it
to
on your
stop.
head.
It's so that people can't read Stade Francais players' minds. What are they thinking?
It's giving your significant other watches rugby and goes, "Oh, that's quite nice." Because remember that happened to all of us.
No, I
Everybody's
collect
girlfriends
Stade
this
Francais
season.
jerseys. The Stade Francais are the teams whose jerseys I have the most of behind the Scarlets. I
Ah,
have more Stade Francais jerseys than Wales jerseys.
Wow.
is it because of Ward, the South African inside
No,
centre?
I just like them. They're just really nice. I enjoy them. They make me happy.
Nicer than
Shout
Wales.
out Jeremy Ward, former Sharks player.
Yeah. Anyway, that does bring us to the end of the show. So that just leaves me to say thank you to Scottish Ethan, South African Mohammed, and Irish Adam.
Thank you. Cheers.
For the purposes of tonight's conversation, I've been Welsh Hugh. Enjoy your rugby, and I hope everybody's team wins. Bye.